Hello, and welcome to 10-Minute Mastery. This session will be about journalizing transactions. This is part 1, Introduction to the Journal and Journalizing. By the end of this 10-Minute Mastery, you will be able to journalize business transactions. But first, what is a journal? A journal is a form used for recording transactions. This is where we record our debits and our credits. The transactions are recorded in the journal in chronological order, which basically means that a transaction occurring on the first of the month is recorded before any transactions which occur on the second of the month. Journals are more manageable and provide a more permanent record of the business transactions. This would be compared to T accounts, where T accounts can get pretty long and tedious, so we use a journal. Since most businesses conduct transactions every day, they usually record their business transactions in their journals on a daily basis. This process of journalizing, it just helps to make sure you are recording transactions. It ensures that the accounting records are kept up to date. These are the parts of a journal and journalizing. This is a basic journal, which you see on your screen. The process of recording transactions using a journal is called journalizing. When we use a journal, the first thing we enter is the date, followed by the description of the business transaction. Then we have a post reference. The posting reference is left blank in the initial recording of the journal entry. We'll learn more about this in a later video and how it actually relates to posting to the ledger. Next, we have our debit. Debits are always recorded first, followed by the credit amount. You can see here in this journal entry, we have two accounts, cash and capital. We have a debit and a credit, the same way we did with the T accounts. Again, debits are always recorded first. You can see there on that first row, we have cash debit of $5,000. And then up here, you can see the page number of the journal. Each new page will receive a new page number. So when we get to the bottom of page 1 on the journal, and that's all filled up with transactions, when we begin a new page, we'll call that page 2. So let's jump in and practice the process of journalizing. Keep in mind, every transaction impacts at least 2 different accounts. Example 1, business transaction. October 1. Received cash from owner as an investment. This transaction impacts cash and capital. This is what it looks like in the T accounts, and then just below those T accounts is what it looks like when we journalize it. You can see the journal entry is probably neater, or at least in my opinion. So here we have the journal entry. October 1, we enter the date first. Then we have cash, debit, 5,000. On the next row, in the very next row, don't skip a row, we have Tanya P, capital. And then we move over to the credit column and enter $5,000. Make sure you always record your debit first. Let's work some more. Example 2, on October 2, we paid cash for supplies in the amount of $200. This transaction impacts cash and supplies. The first thing we're going to do is enter the date. This business transaction occurred on October 2. Then we've got supplies first because that's our debit. So we enter supplies under description. We go over to the debit column and enter 200. On the next row, we have cash. And then we move over to the credit column and we enter 200. That's how to journalize example 2. Let's look at example 3. On October 3rd, we paid cash for insurance in the amount of $500. This transaction impacts cash and prepaid insurance. This is what it looks like when we journalize it. The first thing we're going to do is enter the date, October 3. We do our debit first. This account is prepaid insurance, and under the debit column, we have $500. On the very next row, we have cash, and then under the credit column is $500. You can see here, this transaction impacts 2 accounts, cash and prepaid insurance, and it has a debit and a credit. You can also see debits equal credits, so we remain in balance here. Example 4, business transaction. October 4, we bought supplies on account from Ocean Supplies in the amount of $100. This transaction impacts supplies and accounts payable, Ocean Supplies. This is what it looks like when we journalize it. We have October 4th for the date. Supplies is first because that's our debit. So we enter supplies under the description column. We go over to the debit column and we have 100. On the next row of the journal, we're going to enter the description of accounts payable, Ocean Supplies. Then we're going to go over to the credit column and enter our 100. Debits equal credits. This transaction impacts 2 accounts, and there's a debit and a credit. Last example. Let's journalize this business transaction. October 5th, we paid cash on account to Ocean's Supplies in the amount of $800. This business transaction impacts cash and accounts payable, Ocean Supplies. In our journal, we have the date of October 5. We have the debit first, and that's accounts payable, Ocean Supplies in the description. Move over to the debit column. $80 is entered. On the next row in the description, we have the cash account, and that's going to be a credit. So under the credit column, we enter 80. This is what that actually looks like in the journal. Now you can see here, I've put it all together and we've got all 5 of the transactions. If you'll notice here, I did not write OCT for October on all of those rows because it's understood. That's not needed, but we do need the number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Those occurred on October 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You can see here that all of these business transactions are recorded one right after another. We did not skip a row. And you can see we did the debits first, followed by the credits for each transaction. You can also see in the end that my debits equal my credits. Debits are 5,880 and my credits are 5,880. This has remained in balance. Each transaction had a debit and a credit. Each of these transactions impacted at least 2 accounts. And as a matter of fact, each of these impacted 2 accounts. So that's what it looks like when we put all of these transactions together in the journal. Thank you for viewing. Feel free to leave any comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and please like this video.